Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look into the medium to long term here, taking a look at some potentially major snowstorms and cold blasts that could dive across the central and eastern United States. We're going to take a look at all that in this video and the possibilities of what we could see over that period of time. But as always, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notifications. And some bad news, 97% of you guys are not subscribed, so be sure to, again, hit that subscribe button if you do not want to miss out on the latest weather content. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in here. All right, starting off here, let's take a look at the Nino 3-4 index. It basically tells us how strong our El Nino or La Nina, whichever it may be, how strong it is. So you can see at the end of the summer, right, July into August, we were kind of like in that weak El Nino territory. We have since strengthened it a little bit, and we are now kind of in that moderate El Nino zone. So as predicted, the El Nino is building as we go through autumn, and it will probably peak as we head into early winter. And then it definitely looks a little bit more mysterious after that as to what could happen to the Nino 3-4 region here. In case you guys don't know, it is a region in the Pacific that can actually have a lot of effects here on our weather patterns and what kind of weather we see throughout the summer, winter, all four seasons, okay, even spring and autumn as well. So we're going to be taking a look at that. But of course, as we have learned recently, if you watch my last few videos, you have learned that the Nino index is not the only thing that controls the weather. So a lot of other things, a lot of other factors, okay? But this is one of the bigger factors. And again, we're in that moderate El Nino territory. And of course, we're going to talk again through this video about what that could mean, as well as what snowstorms we could specifically have down the line. If we take a look here at the PNA index, positive PNA generally means for the center and eastern part of the country, we see some cold shots, we see some cold blasts, and higher snowfall usually, at least during the winter time with the positive PNA, while the west is generally warmer, drier. So you can see we have been in a positive PNA for a while and probably will be for a couple more days before the forecast of the ensemble models here, GEFS ensembles, is for us to drop into a negative PNA, so kind of flipping that pattern. The NAO is when it's in negative, North Atlantic oscillations, when it's in negative, the same thing as I told you with positive PNA, so those two are the same. And you can see again, looking here, pretty much going to be staying negative at least over the next couple of weeks. And I do like to show these in a lot of videos when I talk about these snowstorms and what they could look like for this winter, because I think, again, the oscillations are another big factor to what controls the weather, especially here in the U.S. We take a look at the Arctic oscillation. It kind of jumps up a little bit and then kind of hovers around near zero. A lot of the ensembles disagree on what could happen with the Arctic oscillation, which that one and the NAO are similar as to like when it's negative, colder for the east, warmer for the west, and the opposite, colder in the west, warmer in the east, if it is in a positive phase. All right, so let's take a look here at what we could be seeing. So we're going to take a look at the temperature anomalies here. This is the GFS model. And you can see this is pretty much around right now. And you can see colder air, especially over the eastern seaboard and through the southeast. Of course, I'm sure millions of you are feeling that today, right? And you can see here, look at this. You can almost kind of see like the little low pressure, like little mesocyclone there kind of spinning across the upper Midwest. That, of course, will bring some cold air behind it. Now, this is going to be moving east, and these will be one of the storms that I'll be showing you in this video that could be interesting potentially for some snow chances. All right, and I'll actually talk about why this storm is actually a really good thing. Even though the Northeast is pretty flood weary, this could actually be a good thing. I'll explain why later on in the video, so definitely stay tuned for that. It'll actually have a positive effect. But you can see once that low kind of moves through, and we'll be able to look at the rain and snow maps as well, so you'll be able to actually see it. But colder air will come falling across the eastern seaboard behind that low pressure system. It's a big low pressure. Of course, it's going to have a lot of cold air coming in behind it. I mean, look at it. It just sticks around. Look at Monday into Tuesday to northeast, right? I mean, look at some of these like green colors. We're talking like 8 to 16 degrees below average Fahrenheit, all right? So this is going to be pretty cold air. But then look what comes right behind it. We see a lot of ridging over the central U.S., a lot of warmer air, very warm, in fact, 20 degrees above average. Before that comes crashing through, and then the colder air takes over the northeast, and then it's warm, and then it's another big frontal system comes through, and it cools everybody down. This is around the beginning of November now. So we're getting pretty far out here, but look at this, another big cold blast coming in on November 2nd. So definitely looking like a flip-flop pattern as indicated by the GFS model, but I think if you were to average all this out in general, even though there are some periods where it flips, the East generally does look colder. And because, I mean, this seems to last in the East. I mean, we might jump up briefly middle, end of the week, but I mean, it's right back to it for several days of just colder air all the way pretty much through from like next Sunday all the way to next Wednesday. It's going to be cold. And of course, and again, this script could also flip, but in general, colder East, warmer West, I think will be the case for the next couple of weeks, according to the GFS model. All right, let's now take a look here. Let me zoom out at this CFS. Right, these are the ensembles here, kind of like the average of these ensembles. You can see again kind of what I'm saying here for the next week. Colder East and Southeast. This could hold a little bit, but we start to see a little bit more of a colder air kind of coming in from Canada. Maybe a jet stream a little bit more restricted to the north, allowing some warmer air to build across the south. I think that'll be the main. This is like the 24th of October through Halloween. Then, of course, a lot of warmer air kind of builds. But again, as I say in every time I talk about the CFS, once you get to these last few frames here, because I mean, at this point, we're talking like a month and a half out. It just likes to put orange all over the map. I don't know why. It's just a thing they do. They probably have a warm bias. Like these ones, like that are only a couple weeks out, are pretty accurate in general, but not so much once you get over a month out. So I would kind of take those with a grain of salt for right now. Let's take a look at the precipitation anomalies. You can see above average precipitation anomalies, and this is actually significant because in this region, especially October and November, late October and November, we get a lot of low pressure systems that move through here. It's generally where we start to get our snowstorms and our winter storms. All right, so this will be very significant for the winter season here. And even over the next month or two, because generally speaking, snow does start to fall in this northern region in October, latter half usually, towards the end, but also during November. So once the calendar flips in November, expect the models to start, generating some snowstorms here because generally that is what happens, typically speaking. And we could see that if the precipitation is above average, we could see more low pressure systems moving through here with higher precipitation. And if it's cold enough, it could lead to snow in that area. Not a guarantee for snow, but it's an increased chance for it. If we look at the GEFS model, you can see, again, these are kind of like a 5-day composites like this, the 19th to the 24th, 20th to the 25th, and so forth. You can see going through the 26th of October, you can see, again, colder east, warmer west, and even a warmer central U.S. here. But watch what happens as we get over the next, say, 12 to 13 days. You can start to see a cold air is going to be diving down from Canada and setting the stage around the same time when we do have those above average precipitation anomalies, which I'll show you in a second. And then that could also lead to some more colder air across the north central and even the eastern seaboard all the way through the end of the month and possibly even early November as well. So here it is on the GEFS. This is just what I was talking about right here. All right, at the same time that, I'll go back here, at the same time where we got that cold air diving through, we also have those above average precipitation anomalies here across the central U.S. So we could see an increased chance, and the models have actually been hinting at a storm, some sort of storm moving through the central U.S. So we're going to talk about that one as well as the one in the east here, but definitely looks like something could set up, some kind of storm system could set up, say in about like 8 to 12 days from now. Something could certainly set up across the central U.S. there. All right, let's take a look at the geopotential heights on the GEFS. You can see again. Now keep in mind here, look at this. This is the big storm system that can move through the east here. All right, notice how there's always going to be a high pressure system building somewhere. I mean, it's south of Greenland, pretty far south, but usually there is some sort of high pressure next to it, right? So look at this high pressure. You can see area of high pressure kind of builds. Watch as that moves off to the east. All right, and then it kind of starts to fade a little bit. All right, but then we again do have that a period of below average MSLPs, right? In other words, lower pressure, which could lead to some sort of cold blast or a storm system moving through, all within the realm of possibilities here. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Usually high pressure moves through, low pressure kind of builds it behind it, right? They kind of like to follow each other in line, if you will. All right, so that's what the MSLP there, kind of like their geopotential heights are looking like on the GEFS model. Now, before I move on to the global model to talk about the snowstorms and that what we could see across the central and eastern United States, I want to show you real quick, like I promised, why this storm system, the one I was talking about, that's, if you've seen over the past couple of days, that could potentially be like a blockbuster, some sort of coastal storm or nor'easter that could move across the northeastern U.S., why that's actually going to be a good thing potentially. All right, so watch the MSLP. You can see the geopotential heights. All right, kind of building. We see like this deeper low pressure start to form. Right, basically a low pressure is going to move here. It's going to kind of this southern one's going to kind of develop and then move up the coast. Right, that's a classic winter storm setup. Right, primary low moves through, sets the stage for a coastal low to develop, and that coastal low. Right, we're not going to see any blockbuster snow from this, but certainly something could come of it. We're going to talk about that and another storm in just a sec. But the reason this is a good thing is because if you notice over here, this is Invest 94L. And what's going to happen is that this high pressure to the north of 94L and this low pressure system here are going to kind of pull it in between. So because of this, it's going to get pulled further to the north. All right, so you can kind of see that happening right there. And I'll change this to North Atlantic because I think it's easier to see because the globe's not like tilted. It's not like a flat map now. All right, if we take a look at that, you can see as that low pressure system kind of builds across the northeast, here's the low pressure system here, 94L, that kind of gets you drawn to the north. All right, so if it wasn't for that, I mean, there's 94L kind of getting, you can see it right there, kind of getting sucked into the, there's your high pressure. Ooh, that's a bad age. There's your high pressure system here. There's your low pressure, other low pressure here. You got 94L here. If it had not been for this, big storm system, 94L had a very good chance because it was tracking pretty far south. It had a good chance of coming towards the United States. Now, whether it misses the Caribbean islands, that's probably another video. That's another video for another time. But do know that this storm system, as of right now, looks like it could save the U.S. from a direct impact from what could have become a 94L. Anyway, getting back to the global models here, we're going to take a look at the GFS to start off with and what things could be looking like here. So there's a low pressure system, not all that weak, not all that strong, moving through the upper Midwest and the Southeast Canada, but notice what's developing down here. A little low pressure system off the coast. And you can see as it moves, all of a sudden, we got a low that forms off the coastline, really strengthens 990 millibars of pressure. But keep an eye on this. This is the high pressure that will start to be sending some colder air southward a little bit. And it's going to allow for some snow to form in parts in Southeast Canada, a little bit of scattered snowfall. All right. And as the low moves up into New England, watch the track of this high pressure system, because if it can provide enough cold air on the backside and enough moisture is left over, there could be some snow forming on the backside of this. And the models have kind of gone back and forth. But I've seen, at least what I've seen from the models, and they've been pretty consistent on some sort of snowfall, at least falling in northern New York, kind of in the Adirondacks region there in the northern part of the state and those mountains there. So that looks like it could be a possibility, at least some rain and snow mix at the very least on the backside of it. Because then you can see once the low leaves, now the cold air really spills south. So the question is, how much moisture is left over from when that low leaves? Because you got to remember, once the low pressure moves to the east, we got wind coming from behind that and from the high. So it's a really kind of like a double whammy here of cold air kind of just being forced down. And that's why it's going to get so cold in the east over the next, say, about a week from now or so. At the 540 line, as I explained in the last video, again, think of it as kind of like your rain and snow line. Not necessarily the 32-degree line, but the rain and snow line, because we know snow can fall when the surface temperature is over 32. But just know that, generally speaking, if you see this blue line, it means it's generally pretty cold. And that's certainly going to dive southward here as this cold air dives south because of that high pressure system moving south with it. All right. So that'll be happening over the next several days. So snowfall with this, actually, we'll take a look at the other storm system across before I do that. Taking a look here across the plains. All right. You can see here low pressure system moving through the central plains. We got a lot of rain, a lot of snow in the Rocky Mountains here. So there's a low pressure that moves across across Kansas and Nebraska. A little bit of snow behind it, parts of Nebraska and Colorado. Definitely have to see what happens because the models have certainly been back and forth on that. You can see another low pressure system moving through the upper Midwest. And then look at this little low pressure kind of dives in here. So a lot of wintry possibilities here over the next couple of weeks. So looking here at the snowfall totals, you can see over the northeast, potentially over the next couple of weeks, potentially some totals in the mountainous regions exceeding 6 inches of snowfall. That was certainly something that kind of wasn't showing before. Of course, we got several inches of snow over the Rocky Mountains, but other than like elevated locations, while there are some areas here that are closer to the surface in the northeast that do pick up some snow, really in general, not much is happening, right? It's mostly in the mountainous locations. But there are some models that show things a little bit differently. So with that said, let's take a look at the European model. All right, again, same setup here. Low pressure kind of moves across the upper Midwest and the Northeast, but notice what happens here. Ah, that's interesting. So this low pressure moves through, then this moves behind it. They don't really connect. They don't strengthen a lot. They don't combine, right? And there's a third one that kind of comes in behind that, but those two don't really merge either. So, I mean, at the end, it does get a little stronger, but it would have been even stronger had these storms been able to combine. And you can see kind of where it sits there over southeast Canada, that heavy snow and mix. Again, because that cold air is more available up there, but there's certainly the same thing could happen in the northeast here. You can see certainly the high pressure is further south, while the low pressure is still kind of like on the screen. We're able to see it. So there's definitely a lot of cold air available. So if the moisture were to kind of hang back, right, we could see that some snow forming there. But also look what happens in the central United States. Aha. So classic snowstorm setup, especially in the autumn. Low pressure kind of moves from the southwest here, kind of gets detached from the main flow, like the jet stream kind of just meanders through here, and then it goes boom out of nowhere, forms low pressure here, right? It kind of ejects itself from the Rockies. Moisture is pulled up from the south, cold air pulled up from Canada from the north, and you got classic heavy rainfall and heavy snowfall to the north of that rain zone. And then you can see that even snow mix getting all the way down into areas that are not really high elevated, like in elevation. Nebraska and Kansas, right? These are called the plains for a reason, right? Now there are some higher elevation spots, but the point is you can see we do have some snow and mix kind of making its way down there. There's your high pressure. There's your nice blast of cold air coming in there, be able to provide with enough cold air for some snow. So with that said, looking at now again, this is a 10-to-1. Before I used the Kuchera ratio. Of course, that's not kind of available for the European model here. So it's assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. Basically, what that means is they're assuming for every inch of liquid, there's going to be 10 inches of snow. Now, that could vary. Kuchera means it takes the actual ratio into account. It could be 20-to-1, it could be 5-to-1. All right, but it assumes a flat 10-to-1 rate. But you can see either way, there will be some form of snowfall, western South Dakota, western North Dakota, western Nebraska, and Kansas, maybe a couple inches, and then maybe a few inches or more in the mountains. But this is certainly one of the more robust snowfall maps I've seen in a little while, right? I mean, it's October. I wasn't expecting to see this so soon, but it does happen. And of course, even with that other little storm system there, tracking through like southern Canada could maybe provide a few inches of snow into North Dakota as well. So there's just a lot of storms to talk about here. But the most interesting solution has to be the Canadian model. So let's take a look at that. You can see again, the two low systems don't really connect that much. I mean, it gets strong, but not as strong as it could have been. High pressure off to the north here. So the only one that seems to combine that primary low that comes through here and that secondary low is the GFS. They really kind of combine the two together and help to form a stronger system here. And you can see some snow does kind of hang back, right? Or the moisture hangs back in the cold air, allowing for that snow. I'm trying to go back here. Yeah, you can see it right on this frame here. This is a Monday morning, next Monday morning. You can see high pressure is pretty close, right? It's able to send in that cold air. There was some moisture left behind. We got a rain-snow mix across northern New England. Then that high pressure sets in across the northeast, protects it from the next low pressure system, which will be sent above the high pressure system. You can see, of course, some snow and some mix, but yeah, it looks like a lot of snow there moving through North Dakota at least, and parts of South Dakota. But then look what happens. We see low pressure hanging back in the Rockies. High pressure is pretty much dominating the east and the southeast, kind of keeping all the activity, storm activity, kind of going this way. You can see North and South Dakota's got some snow falling. Then another low pressure system moves through the upper Midwest. So all of these predictions are looking pretty interesting as of right now. Look at this is the Kuchera ratio of snow, the more accurate snow to liquid ratio. Over a foot of snow, at least in North Dakota, northwestern part of the state, but even still, a few inches outside of that, and some heavy snow for the Rockies and even for the Sierra Nevada. So, and then you got your little bit of snow in northern New England. So, and these maps, I can assure you, will only get more robust as the weeks go on. So, this will definitely be something to talk about here, going even through the winter time as well. So, looking like a lot of cold blast and a lot of snowstorms making their way through the U.S. here as we head over the next couple of weeks and into the next couple of months. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Of course, stay tuned. My second official. I know we've been doing a lot of these discussions about what the winter could look like here. You know, what could be happening in the medium to long term. Definitely stay tuned. My second winter forecast will be out soon. Of course, just starting to get it organized a little bit, starting to take, look at all the different maps. So that will definitely be coming out soon. And thank you guys for watching. I am the Weather Dude signing off till next time, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.